The first one we have here, Stephen, is new Treasury data has revealed 650,000 new migrants are going to be welcomed to Australia over the next 2 years. And we've touched on the housing shortage multiple times over the last year. So I've just got one question for you to begin with, which is, which you kind of answered before, but where are these people actually going to live?
Well, if you ask some people in tents, because with what's happening in the building industry at the moment, there's not, we're not even keeping up with current demand of housing, let alone demand for, it's 650,000 over 2 years, so 325,000 extra people a year. And if you just round numbers, 3 people to a family on average, that's still 100,000 homes extra a year just for this growth. And we're already 100,000 homes a year behind. So in the next 2 years, we're going to be something like 350,000 homes short. And homes are anything from, you know, a granny flat in the backyard to a mega mansion on Sydney Harbour. They don't count really how many bedrooms or what, but we are just so short of housing. And it's not going to get any better. The more and more they bring in migrants, the problem is with migrants is they all want to live in Melbourne and Sydney. And then that inflates the housing prices, that inflates all the congestion, that makes everything worse and worse in those outer suburbs. And it's just not planned for. The councils are inept at doing anything to solve this problem. And I think we've said it before, that the way to solve this problem is open up land, make development applications go through in 6 weeks, not 6 years. Just absolutely open it up. And the problem that is when you open up supply, you'll put downward pressure on all the homes, which means then that the banks won't like it because, you know, mortgages aren't going up, and stamp duty is not being collected at a higher rate for governments, and governments are addicted to stamp duty. So it's really, really terrible. It's a Ponzi scheme for government and taxes. It'll put pressure on our Medicare system. It'll put pressure on our schooling system. It's going to put pressure on our hospital system, because most of these migrants aren't coming from, you know, first world developed nations. They're coming from developing nations. They're coming on reunification visas. So a lot of them aren't contributing to society in a huge way. They will have some contribution to society, but not in a massive way. So yeah, it's going to be a massive, massive burden. If we don't open up everything that's needed in the stack to build a home, or just renovate current homes, I don't know where these people are going to live other than tents. And then we'll have tent cities like you see in the US. One of the things I have noticed when I've been driving up and down the highways and spending a lot more time in regional Australia is the amount of people in caravans at truck stops, or, you know, highway rest areas. It's phenomenal. I can't remember, and must admit I have been overseas for a while, and I haven't driven the highways for a long time, but in that period, the amount of caravans and vans, just white vans with people living in them, has exploded. And we're talking huge, huge numbers. Apparently every night there's 85,000 people, families that are homeless in Australia right now, that don't have any secure lodging. So they're taking to vans, they're taking to tents, they're taking to caravans, and just living sort of wherever.
So do you think that's just going to continue to grow, or do you think it'll actually be a good time for a property investor or developer to focus more on property, because you think more of these migrants will look for actual shelter like that rather than caravans, or do you think they'll lean more towards that side?
Look, it comes down to availability. Some of these people are doing it because they want that lifestyle. Some of them are doing it because they've got no option, and but it's not no option because they can't afford it. They've got no option because there is nothing available. So yes, there is a good avenue for developers or for property investors, but you've got to pick what you're actually investing in. We've picked tiny homes to do tiny home estates and off-grid sustainability thing because we think that's one market segment. The other market segment is developing brownfield sites. So houses on 1,200, 800 square metre blocks, put 2 or 3 of them together, and then build medium density apartments. So the only way that inner cities and the inner city suburbs are going to survive is they're going to have to go up, right? And they're going to have to dense up areas. So we'll, it is a great time if you're looking in the right areas and you're not just thinking the traditional investment route. You've got to be careful on governments doing sneaky attacks on your taxing of property and that sort of stuff. So I think for the next 10 years at least, property is not going to, it'll wave, it'll cycle, but we're not going to see a massive downward trend in property in Australia because the supply and demand curve is just huge. The demand is way outside the supply. So wherever you've got that curve and you've got people that can buy, you're going to have people take it up. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, if there's going to be these effects, like what you were saying before, all of the pressure being put on different things like the medical system, the education and homelessness and everything else, if there are going to be a lot of those pressure put on, do you think there's actually any possible solution to mitigate the effects these migrants could have? Or, and if so, how do you think the average Australian can actually benefit from this?
So, well, one of the ways of benefiting is take the opportunity to relocate. If you're in inner city Melbourne or Sydney now and the prices are maintaining, I think I heard the other day that Sydney prices went up for the first time in a month for a number of months, which is normally a good sign of that mini wave finishing, because people have now got used to the higher interest rates and have settled in. The other option is, so taking a move, look at regional areas. There is a lot of jobs out in regional areas and a lot of work. So there is opportunities to repivot where you're going and what you're doing and have a look at that going forward. So
yeah,
I think it is a good time. You've just got to be smart and you just got to think outside the square.